on more realistic structure of international institutions. If there is closer collaboration between these three countries, I see a much enhanced prospect of an acceptable trading system in the world, and much greater unity between our region, which is the South Asian region, with the Southeast Asian region and the Pacific. Today we have a problem. India today has a problem. We are not, I think we are not economically prepared, and we do not have the capacity to integrate with the Pacific if there was a free trade area movement in the Pacific region. Very difficult for India to integrate with it. We're not in that position yet. China can, but we can't. And therefore, to mold India and to draw India into such a larger, wider trading organization, cooperation between the three countries will be extremely useful. So I think it will unlock many opportunities in the world if China, America and India could come together. But it will make some people suspicious as well. It will make Russia very suspicious. It may make Iran very suspicious. Iran ostensibly wants a good relationship with the United States of America. It is because Iran reached out to the United States of America that the nuclear deal was done. Europe couldn't have done it. The United States of America has made a very far-sighted decision. A lot of people here believe that that's a wrong decision, that in the long term Iran will let you down. But certainly I believe it's a visionary step that President Obama has taken, and the Senate has supported him despite reservations, and it makes the world a safer place, frankly. But obviously one can't talk about the future. Yeah?
Do you think relations between India and Pakistan will improve while Modi is still in power?
Will improve if...
While Modi is still in power?
Oh, gosh. There is nothing about Mr. Modi in the past. He's about... he's 64 years or 65 years old. I think in out of those 65 years, at least 63 years, there was nothing that indicated that he had the capacity, the intention, the ability, or the inclination to sort things out with Pakistan. But in 2 years, we've seen nothing but an inclination and desire and determination to sort things out with Pakistan. Now, it would pleasantly surprise me if he's able to achieve something. The record of the last 2 years, starting with his invitation to Nawaz Sharif to come to his swearing-in ceremony, which everyone said was a great game changer, and then ending up with going to Nawaz Sharif's niece's wedding unannounced. More people said it's a game changer, but the game has remained the same. I believe that Pakistan has become a little sophisticated in its dealings with us now. They send terrorists in, I don't know how many they send at a time, and they say, we've sent 6 people have crossed the border, get them. And we shoot down 6 and we say, oh, Pakistan's been wonderful, now it's telling us who's coming in to hurt us. Now, I'm not quite sure that that's a serious thing. I think that there's a lot of camouflage there. But let's hope for the best. It is important that India and Pakistan live in peace. I think that's extremely important. And if Mr. Modi thinks that he wants a Nobel Prize by getting peace between India and Pakistan, I don't have a problem. But I would be careful. I would be very careful.
Yep. You mentioned answering an earlier question that India doesn't seem to have sort of the ability to enter or integrate with Southeast Asia like China does. Do you believe that, as China sort of puts out its economic footprint in Africa and Southeast Asia, that it's more up to America to sort of take on that role of trying to integrate markets towards like a capitalist?
Well, I think there are two areas, Africa and the Middle East, where a lot of questions are constantly asked about America's interest in that region. In the Middle East, there is a real concern of American withdrawal, leaving a wide gap. And we've been asked, India has often been asked, if America withdraws from the Middle East, would you be able to step in and provide security? Our answer generally has been that we will not. We are neither in that position, nor are we, in terms of policy, inclined to do something of this nature. We would be very happy to cooperate and help them build their own defenses, including naval assets, but we can't do it for them, is what we've said. And then the United States has, your military commanders have, at least on 2 or 3 important occasions, reiterated that they have no intentions of retreating and withdrawing from that region, and that they will remain there. The bases will remain. But that is an expectation that the Arabs have about the United States remaining there, particularly after the nuclear deal with Iran, because the conflict or potential conflict between Arabs and Iran, between the Sunni Muslims of Arabia and the Shia Muslims of Iran is very severe, and it seems to get exacerbated every year. It's getting worse, and it's being fueled by what's happening in Syria and what's happening in Iraq. So that's a very, very dangerous area, and it would become even more dangerous if there was a vacuum and the United States was supposed to withdraw. So it needs to remain there. Now, as far as China and Africa is concerned, China has only a very limited indication yet of any presence or intervention in the Middle East, but they are in a big way in Africa. But they have a different model from the Indian model. An African president once explained to me that India has been here for a very long time, and Indians have become part of Africa. And the idea of India is to come and work with Africa, whereas Chinese idea is to work in ATM, to come, bring their own labor, dig up minerals and take them away. So in the long run, Africa stands to gain much more from the Indian model of development, which is a development partnership model, rather than the ATM model that China has. But China has more resources, it has more money. Therefore, unless India is willing to commit more money to Africa, there will be field day for China. We have 6 million overseas Indians working in the Middle East, and a lot of them are sending very important foreign exchange to our country. And therefore, the security and stability of the Middle East is extremely important to us. It's also a major source of supply. Obviously, 60 or 65% of our oil comes from the Middle East, and gas comes from the Middle East, and therefore it's an area of extreme importance to us. I'm not quite sure that our government is quite clear on how to handle Middle East. For the present, it's the momentum that's carrying us through, but I think we need to do a little more thinking there, perhaps working more closely with the United States of America. Yeah?
Hi, I was just wondering if you wouldn't mind briefly touching on what your views towards the Iran nuclear deal are?
On what, sorry?
On the Iran nuclear deal?
See, I had some opportunity to talk to Iranian leaders when there was despondency in Europe, and I'm not quite clear about the US, but there was despondency in Europe about that deal going through. My impression that I then conveyed to my counterparts in the US and in Europe, my impression when I went to Iran was that they were keen to find a resolution to the problem, but they wanted to get it from the US. They wanted to talk to the US, not to Europe. Europe was there for the formality, but their real interest was to talk to the US and to break the ice with the US. Despite what you have seen over the years, over 20 years, you've seen tremendous hostility in the streets of Tehran and elsewhere, and the kind of statements that have often been made about the United States by top leadership of Iran. But in private conversations, I found that they were just determined somehow to break the ice with the US. At one point, the foreign minister told me that, do you realize we have 90,000 Iranian students in US universities, and most of them are on scholarship, whereas India doesn't allow even 900 people visas to come to India from Iran. He taunted me with this statement and said, you're wrong if you think that we don't have a relationship with the United States. So to me it appeared that they were really keen and desperate, and that they would give up whatever intentions they had to make the nuclear bomb in order to be able to reach out to the United States, which is what has happened. But there is doubts here. There are doubts in the United States. There are very serious doubts in the Middle East. Israel is very concerned. Saudi Arabia is very concerned. And it's strange, for the first time, the Arabs and Israelis together are expressing their concern about what's happened with the US and Iran. So it's a very complex sort of situation, but I just hope for the best. We hope that the US has made its right choice. We had an opportunity, at least we were invited repeatedly by Iran, to break the barrier and break the sanction that had been imposed, because we needed oil and they were willing to give us oil at a good price and to tie up for the next 50 years. But we felt that our improving relations with the US and our commitment to the UN could not be betrayed. And that's the reason we gave up in those crucial 4 to 5 years some very, very lucrative offers from Iran and their desperation to reach out to us. But they never talked strategically. They talked only about a glorious future in terms of oil and trade. But they didn't really share any strategic secrets with us, nor did they bring us in the loop about what they were actually doing in terms of enrichment of uranium and so on. So we thought that it was important that we should not betray expectations of the United States, and we didn't. We thought that we should convey to the United States what we understood were the true intentions of Iran. But the future United States will have to work out for itself. We are not quite certain what will happen. Yep.
Do you think a lot of the more extreme Hindu nationalism that has been associated with the BJP is going to undermine
In India?
efforts in the Middle East?
Do you know Barkadat? I heard her speak at a forum in Kolkata. It's a telegraph debate in which they invite important people. And I heard her say that, she said, I have stopped using the word secularism because it was abused so much in the country, that I now speak of pluralism, but not secularism anymore. And I've now stopped using the word nationalism because it's been abused so much. I've started using the word patriotism. Now, it's all very well to switch from one word to another word. It's the idea that really matters. I don't mind saying this, but I think all the talk about nationalism that's being propagated and propounded by whoever these characters are is nothing short of absurd. you can't force respect. And as far as our law is concerned in India, Jehovah's Witnesses, for instance, we have a Supreme Court authority. If Jehovah's Witnesses do not want to stand when the national anthem is sung, the Supreme Court has said that doesn't amount to offending national sentiments or the flag, because that's their faith. Their faith is that they don't stand for any anthem except their own religious incantations. So that's the law of the land in our country. And for somebody to say, if you will not say Bharat Mata Ki Jai, long live or hail to Mother India, then you're being seditious and you're being anti-national, is absurd. And certainly what they did in the university, Jawaharlal Nehru University, was completely and utterly absurd. But unfortunately, I think this is a challenge. People think this is a challenge to the opposition and a challenge to liberal India. I think this is a challenge to a government that has won a fantastic mandate and come to power. It's a challenge to them because they are stuck with these people. They want to get on and be a successful government that's done economic development for the country, that has some very good ideas that it wants to implement, but they're being dragged down by these absurd companies that they've kept in the past but kept under wraps, and that company just come out in the open. So I think we're in for bad times, but it will require a lot of sagacity and patience and good sense to fight this. You can't pick up rocks and stones and start breaking people's bones because they've said nasty things to you. Yep, yeah.
Do you believe the tensions between Pakistan and India are an obstacle to improving India's relations with China, given China's bilateral relations with Pakistan as a military ally?
Well, it's a very curious and ambiguous relationship. As I've often said, China does not show the colors of freedom, of friendship that one would expect of them, given the extent to which we go out of our way to show understanding and comfort to them. Now, they have no ideological commonality with Pakistan. They can only have a clever strategic interest to keep India in check. And that's the only reason why. But just as Pakistan is stuck in a historic time warp, and we are stuck in a historic time warp, perhaps China is also stuck in a historic time warp. I mean, they've been backing Pakistan, and they now find it difficult to stop backing Pakistan. And perhaps they think it's too early to give up options against India. But certainly this is a problem both in terms of our relationship with China and our relationship with Pakistan.
And
So, innovative thinking.
do you see a solution to the Kashmir conflict as helping, I guess you could say, get out of that bubble?
Well, see, Kashmir is a very tricky issue. Now, for Pakistan, Kashmir is the unfinished agenda of 1947. Pakistan says this is not about territory. They say this is about freedom. This is about human rights and freedom. We from India, we can't for a moment say that this issue of human rights and freedom is not a legitimate issue. Any part of India or any part of the world, if human rights are violated, I think sensible people have to stand up for human rights. But every country does have a right every society has a right to protect its fundamentals. And if that happens, to what extent can you go and how do you keep yourself in check is very, very important. Our position is that the interest that Pakistan seems to have in Kashmir is because Kashmir is largely Muslim majority. But Kashmir's majority is a minuscule part of the Muslims that live in India. There are more Muslims who live in India than live in Pakistan. India is the second largest Muslim country in the world after Indonesia, and perhaps about the same as Bangladesh. Now, for the second largest country in the world, the second largest Muslim country in the world, to be told that one part of your country is going to be taken away because they are Muslims, leaves the rest of the Muslims in the country under question. And therefore, to repeat the horror of 1947 of partition is something that we repudiate and reject. And therefore, we believe that the two-nation theory was wrong in 1947, and it's going to be wrong in many more ways now, at this time. Redrawing borders is not going to help Pakistan. I mean, this is gratuitous advice, but I don't think in an extreme position of Kashmir breaking away and going to Pakistan would help, because the balance of the states in Pakistan perhaps would be lost. And there are tendencies in Pakistan to break up into smaller parts. And that will happen, and then it will influence India, and who knows what the final outcome will be. So I think we need to find some solution. Now, I was, a week ago, I was in London talking to the former Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Mahmood Kasuri, who's written a book, and in that book, he's indicated that without any dramatic shift from the two positions, there was a via media that was found when he was Foreign Minister, and that General Musharraf was then President of Pakistan, that via media would have resolved the immediate issues and immediate tension. But for some reason, at the 11th hour, it got derailed, and then of course they lost their government, and we lost our government. Therefore, that never saw the light of day. But he thinks, and perhaps a lot of people who have followed his work think that that might have been a solution. But it's difficult to say whether it might have worked or not. So I think we've exhausted. Sorry, there's one more.
Yeah,
Question.
another question.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, this goes back to what you were talking about earlier. But you mentioned that the United States and India, if they're to continue to have further agreements, that they'll need to have bilateral agreements where both sides are contributing something to support the other country. What do you think are some of the key things that India can offer the United States to help the United States in those sort of agreements?
Ooh, gosh, but that really depends on what the priority of the United States is. If we said we will go out and fix that Baghdadi fellow in ISIS, the United States would say you are wonderful people. But we don't want to go and do that, because we don't want to invite that Baghdadi's followers to troop into India and create a problem for us. But I think that today there is a serious concern, and there should be. There's a civilizational concern that the United States and European countries have about what's going on in Iraq and what's going on in Syria. There's a serious civilizational concern. We have that concern as well. But we are not quite sure that we have any effective role to play going out there and doing something. Like the United Nations would take a view. If the United Nations could find force to take on these people and finish them off, US and India could work closely together. But that's not what the United Nations have done very effectively in the past. Peacemaking is less of a United Nations exercise than peacekeeping. Peacekeeping is fine, but peacemaking is a little worrisome for United Nations. They've done it, but done it in few and far between cases. But that would be a major shift in world governance if the United Nations was to do that. The other, I suppose the other thing that the United States would be interested in is in the services sector they would want more openings in India. And I think that we should provide those openings. Even in the educational sector, the United States would want more openings in India, and we should allow them. I mean, there is a give and take. We can't just expect that the United States will give to us because we are what we are. It will have to be a give and take, and that give and take can't be identical. Can't be entirely asymmetrical, but it can't be symmetrical either. There has to be, depending on the circumstances of each country at a given time, there will have to be some accommodation and adjustment. Okay, thank you. Wrap it up in some way?